Flag salute. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good morning. Good morning. All commissioners are here. Are there any additions to the agenda? I think there was one for an executive session item.
Yes, that's correct. We're gonna also go in under ORS 192-660, section 2E to deliberate with persons designated to negotiate real property transactions.
Any other additions? If not, we can move on to the consent agenda.
Move to adopt consent agenda A and B.
Second. It's been moved by Commissioner Ward and seconded by Commissioner Buble. Any comments?
No, I have nothing, and we could do C too, for them to search.
Can, okay, then we'll do A, B, and C.
Modifying to add C as well. Agreed. Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Comments from the public. I believe to start that off, we have Mike Fletcher, the Executive Director of Columbia 911 here to talk a little bit.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Thanks for allowing me to bend your ear for a little bit. Should be fairly painless. I think we have about 6 real slides to kind of go over. And I'm talking about our special option levy that's on the November ballot. A couple of you heard and seen this, so I'm gonna hold me accountable. All right. All right. Explain. So I'm going to talk a little bit about who we are, who we're not, and some history about Columbia 911. There are 44 911 centers in Oregon. And of those 44, there's about 4 different organizational structures, legal structures of how they're formed and how they operate. And they are unique. The first one is city-ran 911 centers. There's several of those. They generally run under the city police department and they fall in that hierarchy structure of the police department. So the 911 manager reports to usually a command staff, a captain or a commander. And there's specs scattered around the state. The next one, again, maybe a half dozen only are county run 911 centers. And those are generally under the sheriff's office. Same exact thing. They report to a captain or commander and are just under the umbrella of the county sheriff. The overwhelming majority of all the 911 centers in Oregon, this is about 80+%, are what's ORS 190 organizations. So a community, sometimes the whole county, who used to have every agency used to have their own dispatch center. And they decided at some point that, hey, this doesn't make sense. Let's consolidate these services, and they form an IGA and form this 190 911 center. It is very deep in layers of governance. Half dozen agencies or half dozen forms of committees and commissions within the organization to get things done. They're like moving a aircraft carrier because there's so many layers. And then there are three like us, and I will tell you, they are the envy of the other 41 911 centers. They are special districts, 911 special districts. And some very smart people back in the late 80s thought that this seems to be the right model, that niche. And they are Columbia, 911, Tillamook, and Klamath County. And the difference between them and us is we are our own government entity. We are not part of the county. We're not part of a city. We are our own entity. And we don't receive funding from the county or the cities. We have our own tax base, and we're very, very nimble. We can move and shift based on the needs of the users or the agency itself. We are governed by a board of 5 elected people. They're elected from the citizens of 5 geographic zones in the county. So the citizens of Clatskanie and Vernonia have their own representative. And then we have Rainier, Columbia City, St. Helens, and Scappoose are represented. That's how we are structured. The primary difference between us and them, the others, is we don't charge our users anything. We are funded by the taxpayers separately. And so the beauty of that is all of those other 911 centers charge user fees to every police department, fire district, fire department, EMS agency. And I will tell you, they are in the hundreds and sometimes millions of dollars per year per agency, depending on which organization is running the 911 center. We don't do any of that. So we operate, next slide, please. I forget, I need to consider the slides there. So we are the only 911 center for the Columbia County area. And we represent about 12, 13 agencies, every police, fire, and EMS agency. We also provide support services for Columbia County Emergency Management, Oregon Department of Forestry, and Oregon State Police. And we're there, obviously, operators are standing by 24 hours a day. We take, obviously, 911 calls, but what I think the public isn't quite aware of is how much we do in non-emergency call taking. That volume, see a little over 100,000 calls for last year. Our non-emergency volume is 4 to 5 times what we do in 911 calls. And these are just people who don't have an emergency, but it's something, a noise complaint or something like that. But the overwhelming majority are people that just don't know who else to call. And so we act as a clearinghouse for all sorts of things, from I don't know who to call for a water problem or a power problem. And we guide these people through those needs, and we get them to a conclusion. We have a tremendous, unbelievable amount of mental health patients that call us constantly. They're not emergencies, but we have some folks that call us 700 to 900 times a month. And we service those people and help them get through whatever it is they're dealing with that day. One of the things that I want to expound on is that there are actual standards, national standards that we operate by. There's state stuff, there are our own self-imposed, but then there are national standards that we strive to meet. And one of the things that's the most important things we do is our 911 calls. And the national standard for 911 is 90% of 911 calls shall, that's an important word, be answered within 20 seconds. Columbia 911 standards and our practice is 99.4% of all 911 calls are answered within 20 seconds. National standard is 90%. Our actual is 99.3 or 4. Our average answer time last year was 5.3 seconds. That's something we measure every single day. I get a report from our system to see what our staff is doing. Last month, our average answer time was 3.8 seconds. So very, very proud of that. Something everybody should be proud of. And I would challenge everybody sitting here at some point in time when you don't have anything to do, Google 911 answer times in the Portland area, and you will fall out of your chair. We have priority dispatching and call taking from our center. We catch calls from outside of Columbia County all day long because of our cell phones. They don't. Uber knows exactly where you are. 911 does not. So we catch calls dozens and dozens of times in the hour from Clark County, Cowlitz County, Multnomah County, Washington County. It's just because the technology is so antiquated for 911 in the state of Oregon. So we catch calls, and when we discover citizen has a problem, but they're not in Columbia County, they're not our service area, but we know where they need to be transferred to. And so this is a true story last week. A citizen of Columbia County called 911 because their friend who lives in Gresham was killing himself and needed help and didn't know how to get help to him. So they called 911. We answered the call. No problem. We're transferring you to Portland's 911 center. We have priority ring into Portland. We were on hold for 5.5 minutes before 911 answered in Portland. That's the reality of everything not in Columbia County. That's an extreme, but I will tell you the answer times, because we all in this, it's a very small industry in Oregon for 911, and we keep track of everybody. We know what everybody's going through. And I know what our stats are, and I know what their stats are. So something to be very proud of.
Next slide, please.
So, like I said, we operate on a tax base. The special option levy sunsets every 5 years, so we have to go back out. We have 3 primary forms of income. Go to the next slide there. Our 3 primary sources of revenue are our permanent tax rate, which is at 25.5 cents per thousand. And as everybody's probably aware, that permanent tax rate was frozen in 1997, 98. Measure 5 passed in Oregon that capped tax rates. And so every district, special district, a fire district, water district, cemetery district, operates on special option levies to make up that difference. So we do that and have done that since 1998 when we had the first special option levy proposed to the public. It was approved. It went into effect in 1999, and we have had it successfully passed every 5 years since then, until this past May. So why do we need it? Well, because that one permanent tax rate capped. And so there's a big delta between 1998 and 2024. And as an employee, if I hadn't had a raise, a cost of living raise in 25 years, I have a problem. Well, the agency is a living, breathing thing, and it needs to be funded. So that's what we're doing. Our demands for service, our calls for service are always increasing. The public keeps us well employed. Our cost to maintain our equipment, just like you guys, it continues to get more and more expensive. Next slide, please. That's an actual photo of inside of our center. That's the working conditions of our staff. We pay for them. Our largest expense as an employer is people, wages and benefits. And so the levy pays for half of that. It pays for the coordination, working with the state of Oregon, Columbia County's Emergency Management, ODF, which we have a very, very unique, I've worked for, I think this is my 4th 911 center I've worked for in my career. And we all have relationships with ODF, but your neighbors just down the street are very unique in the state of Oregon because they are deeply ingrained into the 911 center, which is very unusual. Most all of them have some kind of, hi, I'm Bob from ODF, and I'm just saying hi at a 911 center. Here, they're actually involved. They sit on our boards, they sit on our committees, they are in our daily run cards. So that's when we get a fire, they're part of our automatic response. That's very unusual. So it's a very tight relationship. And of course, we assist Oregon State Police. And it talks about, again, about our need to maintain our infrastructure. Next slide, please. So the special option levy provides us about $1.9 million. The permanent tax rate gives us about 1.5. So just by those two figures, you say, It's a little over half of what you need. We also have one other primary form of revenue, and that's the 911 tax. So if you have a cell phone, if you have a telephone on your desk at home or on your wall, your phone bill, you will see 911 tax. That's the state of Oregon taxing you for each telephone. I think it's $1.25 a month. And that's actually pays for the infrastructure that the state of Oregon owns. So the 911 system is completely different than the network that this operates on. It's completely different than the network of your office phones, your home phones. Those are all different networks. And the 911 system, telephone system, is proprietary. It's highly regulated, it's highly protected, and it's very old and fallen apart, and it's expensive. So the state of Oregon imposes a 911 tax. There is some funding from that tax that we get from the state. For us specifically, last year was about $740,000. That's what we get from the state. The state makes it abundantly clear every time they send us a revenue check that these funds are not guaranteed and they are not consistent. Guaranteed, I understand. I don't know if ever they've not given us something as little as $20,000, but consistent is absolutely true. It looks like an EKG strip. Some years we get 740. Next year we'll get 600 or 500, and that's consistent. And that's based on what the state is spending for the infrastructure. It depends on what the state is getting collections from the providers. So Verizon, AT&T are the ones who actually pays the state. So that goes up and down. So it's never consistent. So we really rely on those two tax bases. This is something also that I want to expound on, is our tax rate is 29 cents per thousand for the special option levy. We have never in the history of that levy since 1999 asked for a raise, ever. It's the same rate. And this November, it's the same rate. And people, the other government entities that I've presented to will ask, how do you do that? Well, we have 3 reserve funds. So we have our general operating funds, our budget, the general op, and then we have 3 reserve accounts. And those accounts do 2 things. There is, I'll name them first. One of them is revenue loss. And these are all appropriated funds. Revenue loss is just what it sounds like. If we receive less money than we expect from the county, we can dip into that reserve account to make up the difference. In my history, we've never done that. We always, every single year, the county doesn't collect 100% what they estimate, but we've never dipped into it to cover that. We just tighten the belt. But if the special option levy ever should fail, that's what those funds are for. We have a facilities reserve account, that's for buildings, and then equipment, all the things in those buildings. It doesn't pay for people. Those accounts do 2 things. For unexpected failures of a facility, of a piece of equipment, it's unexpected, unplanned. We have funds to fix or replace that thing. And or planned, or I should say emergency. Emergencies come into that. If something very expensive breaks and we have to fix it like right now, those funds are available. And then the pre-planned. So we have projects, we do strategic planning. We look 5-6 years out, and that's always rolling. So every year we sit down with staff and the board and we say, everything in our world has a life cycle, and we plan for those life cycles. So we know in 5 years, this piece of hardware needs to be refreshed, updated, or replaced. We plan for it. We start saving money for it every single year. Just tuck some money away for that project. And we have a list of projects. So how do we keep that 29 cents? that list of projects gets smaller and smaller, and they get pushed out further and further because 29 cents from 25 years ago to today is much different. So our projects get pushed out. And that's how we do that. Our levy failed in May of this year. And the only reason we have the lights on and still are full staffed is because we have that revenue loss. So levy failed in May, July 1 with the new fiscal year, the board transferred the funds from the revenue loss into the general fund. And that will fund us fully until June 30. And we have November and last chance is next May. So we're out trying to garner support for the November election. Next slide, please. So this is kind of talking about where the money comes from. That's straight from our budget. If you take that orange pie and cut it in half, that represents the two tax levies, the permanent and the special option. The purple is the 911 tax that goes up and down. And then we get de minimis other revenues, interest on accounts, et cetera. A little bit from General Electric, SIP, et cetera. Next slide. Where does it go? Personal services is our biggest expense. And then our things, our centers, 911 centers are just loaded with technology. That's just the name of our business. We have CAD systems. The other thing that is very unique to Columbia 911, this is a double-edged sword. We own and operate our radio system. I will tell you that is very, very rare for a 911 center to own the radio system. It's usually a county asset, or it is a individual agency's own portions of it, or the users as a group own their radio system, and the 911 center is just a user of it. But here in Columbia County, we own it. And it is old. It has a life cycle of about 20 years, and ours is 25 years old, and it's failing, and it's very expensive to maintain. Next slide, please. So even though I work in public safety, which is a lot of doom and gloom, it really is, I don't like to usually dwell on that, and I'm not a threat person. But the realities are, if the levy doesn't pass this November, some things will happen. That 42% is what we expect that provides us in revenue. That equates to 50% of our staff. Our people are our most expensive expenditure. So if we just do dollars to people, it's 50% cut in staff. That would have a profound effect on our performance. We always protect what we call the four walls. Four walls is the middle of the building where the dispatchers sit. That is the first priority because that is our mission. Everybody that works on the outside, their only reason for existing as employees is to take care of the people and the systems in that four walls. But to remove all of them, which is what it would take, the four-wall mission will fail because we have techs, IT techs, CAD specialists, training coordinators. The only person that would survive on the outside would be the CFO, and not because we could afford her, it's because bills have to be paid and payroll has to be made, so she would stay. We would discontinue the preventative maintenance on our infrastructure. And people often think that Columbia 911 is this building in St. Helens. Yes, it is. But that radio system, we have properties all throughout Columbia County and actually the state of Washington. We have radio towers and facilities in Kalama, Longview, Kelso, and all across Columbia County. And all those towers have buildings underneath them. much like this, full of equipment, and all of that is owned and operated by us. We have UPS systems, we have generators, we have microwave backhaul systems. All that stuff has to be touched every single month, and that would stop. The other thing that most likely would happen is, while by state statute, the district has the authority to impose taxes. There's another word behind that, and fees. All those other 911 centers, other than the three of us, charge user fees. That's what the board will implement, is user fees, because the mission has to continue, can't fail. And so what does that mean? We would impose user fees on each of our police departments, fire districts, and EMS agencies. And there are some norms in 911 industry. The biggest volume user of our system is law enforcement. They are the biggest consumers of everything we do, and they will pay the bulk of those user fees. It's about 80% of our work volume is law enforcement related. So Rainier, St. Helens, Columbia City, Scappoose, and the sheriff's office will pay the bulk. But fire districts, the next level down on volume is EMS. And actual fire department stuff is really at the bottom, but EMS is busy here. And they will pay the second run. And we gave a quote to Clatskanie Fire a few weeks ago, and their fee is estimated at $180,000. Doesn't sound a lot when you have a multi-million-dollar budget, but $180,000 for Clatskanie Fire District will bury them. And it will put Miss Birkenfeld off the map. Vernonia will fail because 911 has to come first, and it does. You can't have a call for service and no one to call. That's the reality. So I am happy to answer any questions. That's really my presentation. And I want to thank you all for letting me bend your ear this morning.
Any questions? Guess not. Thank you, Mike.
Thank you very much. Nice seeing you all again.
Yes,
Take care. Nancy.
Do we have any other public comment in the room? Was there?
Nobody listed when I checked.
Okay, and
Sears.
raises.
Yeah.
Dan Sears, why don't you go ahead?
Yes. Thank you, Dan.
Oh, Jason?
Yeah.
Thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Great, thank you. Dan Sears, for the record, I'm the advocacy director for Columbia Riverkeeper. And last night there was a hearing. Oregon DEQ took public testimony regarding whether to issue a certification under the Clean Water Act, Section 401, for the proposed next refinery and rail yard at Port Westward. The port testified in support of DEQ issuing the draft certification. I just want to register that I'm concerned that the port continues to downplay the potential impacts of the water pollution from this facility on the community that's most impacted. Last night, the majority of people who spoke opposed the refinery and rail yard. I kept track. I think it was 25 people spoke in opposition, 16 in favor. They identified major gaps in the coordination and planning and evaluation for this major polluter. You know, we're 5 or going on 6 years into a process without resolution of major issues. And I think that speaks to the incompatibility of this proposal with the community and the diked lands. Right now, across North America, we're watching extreme weather events, and we all know they're becoming more common in a disturbed climate system. And I think it's really important for the port to take a step back and think about the fact that a lot of people across North America are being badly impacted by poorly contained toxic liquid and flammable substances in low-lying areas. And the pollution that ensues from a disaster impacts the air, the water, and the soil that people depend on for their livelihoods. And I found a lot of the testimony last night to be very persuasive from people who live within the Dike District. And thank you for your time.
Thank you, Dan. Look like there's anybody else online, but Jan, did you have a public comment?
Well, I think it depends. I'm sorry, I'll speak.
You want to wait for the Lignetics update? We can talk together?
Yes.
Okay, all right, perfect. Yeah, that sounds great. Okay, moving on to old business. Looks like Marina update. Miriam?
Morning. Just a couple brief updates here for you. Our Marina study has, we've confirmed a detailed scope of work with BST and Associates and issued a contract, which as of yesterday was executed. So we're ready to move forward with that. Operations and Finance will be compiling a large amount of data for their review and completion of the study, and that will be expected in February of 2025. Questions on that study? Okay. Our dredging, just a request actually to begin acquiring permits for the dredge whenever we do decide to dredge. And here's a couple of reasons why. Our 10-year cycle of dredge permits have already expired. We will need new permits to dredge within that timeline. Something important to consider is that the data acquired from the work done from the engineering firm and the sediment sampling will no longer be valid after 2026. We're already approaching 2025, and it can take up to a year to get new dredge permits. So if we were to move forward with the process of permitting now, it will give us the flexibility whether we do dredge or don't dredge, whether we dredge in whole or in part, such as the paddle area, which is at this point mud flats. So it's something important to consider, considering the cost and expense that we've gone through in acquiring the data, the sediment sampling up to this point. So with your permission, we would like to proceed with acquiring dredge permits.
Yeah, I have a question on that. Is that, and so the permit duration will still be the same? It'll be a 10-year.
What's the cost of getting permits? I assume there's fees and time associated with.
Right. So we already had permits, and so I've not had to acquire them. We will have to acquire those permits. The one that we didn't have was the disposal location with DEQ, because this was an upland disposal versus an in-water. So that'll be a new permit. So I can get those numbers put together for you and bring that back to you on what the actual permits would cost. But I will tell you, we spent about $100,000 on engineering fees and sediment sampling to date. And that's something we just don't need to spend again, right?
Yeah.
For sure.
It seems to me it's kind of inevitable to have to get the permit regardless, right? I mean, if it's gonna be a 10-year situation, that's quite a long time, so.
Be my recommendation for the pursuit permitting, just to be ready.
Sure. Yeah, and I don't see the paddle aspect of the marina changing at all, regardless of the issues we have with other parts of the marina potentially.
Agreed.
Okay, thank you for that. My last little update is on the Upland Phase 1 construction project. It's running very smoothly, on schedule and on budget, and we've had no change orders to date. Our firm, Cornice Construction, who is local here in Scappoose, has been doing really quality work and on time. They've been a great partner to work with. Their communication is good and their processes are really impressive. We've been taking drone pictures throughout the whole process, and we'd like to get those compiled and put together for your viewing pleasure. Awesome. Okay.
Thank you, Miriam. Okay, airport update. It says Lacey, but it looks like Amy.
Just and so Lacey got called out. She's out at the airport this morning. We have a lot of construction going on in several of our parks, including the airport. The west side pavement maintenance construction is underway. She's out there with the drone, getting some footage of the slurry seal that they're doing and the crack fills. There was some issues that she's dealing with in terms of tenants and the work, but it's progressing. However, we did just hear this morning, and some of you may have noticed that there's a little bit of a sprinkle, and they can't do certain highly sensitive paving with it sprinkling. So that will likely get delayed until Friday, it looks like, based on the weather report. We've been communicating with the tenants throughout the process. So she'll be sending out another email update as soon as she has a firmer idea of when they're going to be able to do the work. We were able to stack two different projects at the same time today. We were hoping that it would work out perfectly so that the emergency generator project would do their electrical shutdown, which will cause the runway to also be closed. So they were meant to be happening at the same time. Because the generator project had to coordinate with the PUD, they're going to move forward with doing the electrical shutdown this afternoon. So likely what will happen, don't quote me, although obviously this is all going in the minutes, but is that we'll open the runway back up until 2:30 when they're going to do the electrical shutdown, close the runway through when the shutdown is over, and then we'll open the runway back up until the pavement can progress. We have no pending through the fence applications. Hangar inspections are scheduled and have been communicated. They're scheduled for October 21st through the 24th. And letters, Facebook, website, emails have all been sent to the tenants on a couple of occasions. And then I wanted to share that we are executing the contract today with Bare Roots Land and Home to demolish those east side open-sided hangars.
Right.
Questions?
All right, thank you. Lignetics, neighbors update.
Jan, let's start 15 here. I got hot off the press news. Steve Nelson is on PTO today, but he did send me a note because I wanted to get the latest and greatest on the status of the DEQ. Are you okay if I go first, Jan?
Absolutely.
Steve writes here, the dispersion protocol has been updated and approved by DEQ. That's great news. The notice to construct documents have been sent to DEQ electronically and by mail, and they anticipate approval to construct by early November. And this is, he said, new tower components and ductwork are completed and will ship out this week. Engineering for the pad is in process and they're planning for January installation. So that's for the cyclone and scrubber. And separately, we're working out details with Lignetics on pursuing the purchase of the transformer with from the Columbia River PUD. And we have an agreement in principle. We're just trying to work out some of the payment details, and we'll be coming and sharing some of those with you as well. But that's sounds like it's going well. So
Yes.
Jan.
Well, I'm pleased with everything you said so far. And I guess I just wanted to be here this morning. You guys maybe, when this gets done, you won't have to deal with me anymore. So I was most interested, obviously, in the transformer. And I would just say to all of you, truly appreciate your support and what you've done so far. And if you have an agreement in principle, I don't need to know the details. If you've got one.
We're still working those out, the details, so.
Okay, all right, details to be worked out. I guess it's my hope that, to use the football analogy, we're in the red zone, but we need to get it across the finish line. So I'm hoping that this part of it can be, because I believe, according to Mike Sale, their VP at Lignetics, when we talked about the things that have already been done, in other words, getting things undercover and not operating on weekends, which has been fabulous this summer, that the bag house and the hammer mill, and he felt like that was going to be a significant
part of the necessary improvements. So, and I think today, again, with sprayers and undercover, the fact that we have still experienced a lot of sawdust this summer, really a lot, it's really a significant part of the overall. And we're so hoping that, at our last community meeting, again, Mike Sale of Lignetics said, they didn't think that we would have to go through another summer. And, June, actually starting in May now, when it starts to get dry and all those things, if we could have this underway also, and I know they have to go through an improvement, approval process from their end. Once you all come to an agreement, I think their higher ups then have to agree to everything also. I don't know, is that in process
That's
too?
part of it, yeah, getting both sides to agree on how to proceed with how we pay for it and
Reimburse those things.
Right, and then the biggie also is don't let that transformer get away.
I got an email back from the PUD saying, great news. Of course, they need some payment, but I don't believe they're gonna sell it out from under us, or if that was to come up, if they had another interested party, I believe they'd let us know, hey, do you want to make a payment? Or so if that comes up, we'll be moving forward on that. As you may remember, the total cost just for the transformer was 43,000. 45,000. So it is within my signing authority. However, we talked about splitting the costs and working out some details there. So we'll figure those details out, and I'll make sure I reach out to you folks and make sure we're doing it all above board and guys happy and customers happy.
Total cost, not just the transfer.
Right, the installation and yeah.
They did say that the existing, I'm going to call it wiring because I'm a layperson, that was not going to have to be redone. It was capable of carrying the additional from the higher.
And they're engineering for the pad they're working on. So that's something they're taking on currently, I'm guessing. So
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Don't think you're getting away, by the way.
We're gonna have to find some sort of advisory committee.
yeah, we need engaged people.
Well, I'm always up for the good fight.
You are to commend for the way you have professionally conducted your advocacy. It's been a pleasure to work with you.
Oh, well, thank you so much. And obviously I appreciate the fact that you all have stepped up. It was needed.
It's a good.
And I think, yes, it made a big difference with Lignetics to have your support. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you for your leadership on this.
Sure.
All right, any questions? Sorry, jumped up.
Moving on to new business, I believe we have a CPBR update from Kevin Jones.
Is he virtual? He is on there. Yes.
Good morning. Good morning. Can everyone hear me?
Yep.
Excellent. Well, thank you for letting me address the commission this morning. This is the third quarter report from Global. From an operating standpoint, we're still employing 22 employees at the site. Our primary work out there is to handle renewable diesel transloading and operations. In our operations to date, we've handled over 14,500 rail cars at the site, which is the equivalent of 25 unit train or 125 unit trains. And we've transferred that product to over 70 vessels at the site without incident. Our health and safety record, which I'm very proud of, indicates that we've had 0 injuries or lost time at the site, which is over 4,700 days of operation without an incident. And that's, in my experience, that's a significant achievement. All of our required environmental tasks, activities, and updates and regulatory compliance are up to date throughout the terminal in all aspects. We have submitted a list of on-site inspections. There's been a total of 275 total inspections on the site since we began operation. Those are from the FRA, the EPA, the Department of Energy, the Department of Agriculture, U.S. Coast Guard, third-party inspections by the State Fire Marshal, U.S. Customs and Immigration Service and TSA. And I'm proud to say that we haven't had any violations or significant incidences in any of those on-site inspections. And we're ready for the next one. From an FRA standpoint, 100% of the unit trains received have been properly marked and had the proper placarding on them. And then on the outbound side, they've been inspected by our teams and released to meet all FRA requirements. From our permit status, all federal, state, and local permits are in place for our current operations, and we continue to be in compliance with all those permits. In regards to the Beaver Dock, we continue to discuss with the port terminal upgrades to comply with Oregon statute 1567, which is in regards to the seismic resiliency requirements. There's going to be a fairly substantial, we believe, list of things that we need to do in order to bring the facility in compliance with those new resiliency requirements. And we're discussing that with the port and how to proceed with those. And then in addition to that, the port and Global continue to discuss dock maintenance issues existing at the facilities today, and how to properly maintain the existing facilities, and how to include and incorporate the modifications that we expect to have to make in order to meet those resiliency standards that I just spoke of. Let's see, on a business development standpoint, and that's primarily what I'm involved with, I'm responsible for at Global. We're responding to a current ethanol inquiry where companies reached out to us and wants to know more about our site and our capabilities to handle ethanol through the facility, and we're responding to that accordingly. And we continue to focus on attracting new customers on the renewable side to, grow additional volumes through the facility and accommodate any potential growth in that renewable sector, which could be ethanol, renewable feedstocks, and other renewable fuels that support the Oregon clean air standards that are in place within the state of Oregon and help customers in our market meet those standards. I've rambled through that very quickly, so I'm hoping that I'll get a question or two.
Kevin, Robert here, I have a question for you. What's the status of the new tanks?
Well, Robert, thanks for asking the question. The new tanks are, from our standpoint, fully permitted for the products that we're allowed to handle through the facility. And we are actively seeking a client that's interested in growing with us at the terminal that would support support the financial aspects of constructing those tanks. And so, for instance, mentioning that we have an ethanol customer that is interested in our facility, we are shovel ready to build tanks and infrastructure to support that ethanol business. And we're hoping that a client will, or a new customer will be interested in contracting with us and the port to support them. And that would immediately trigger the construction of one of the 6 tanks that we're currently permitted for. So that's the best way I can answer the question at this point, Robert.
Makes sense. Thank you.
Any other questions for Kevin?
If I may, Kevin, if you could clarify for us, this is Sean. The facility is currently permitted to handle renewable diesel, ethanol, and Bakken, if I remember correctly. Just want to make sure that everybody understands that you could still switch over to any of those two, depending on business requirements and ability to get it to the dock, I suppose, as well. So
that is absolutely correct. Those are the current commodities that we are permitted to handle through the facility.
And is there a limit?
Not to say that we're excluding ourselves to only search for clients for those commodities. Those are the commodities that we're currently permitted to handle. And should another opportunity be available to us, we would pursue that and attempt to be permitted for those other commodities should they present themselves, Sean.
And Commissioner Buell asked rail car accounts, and I would just mention that we already have limits in place for the facility. 2013-81 or 2014-81? 2013, resolution 2013-81 has our rail caps.
How many?
That's a lot of rail cars. And it's significant, of which I will point out, they have never come close to hitting.
Gonna say, we're not even close.
All right, any further questions or comments?
Thank you, Kevin.
Yeah, thank you, Kevin.
Yes, thank
You
you.
bet. I appreciate your time. Thank you.
Okay, next up, we have a SDAO update, and I believe Frank Stratton is online.
Good morning, everyone. Frank Stratton, Executive Director for the Special Districts Association of Oregon. And so really pleased that Bob and Sean asked me to come kind of give you an update on what SDAO is, what Special Districts Insurance Services is, for those of you that haven't interacted with us much in the past. So I'm going to go through a brief PowerPoint, and hopefully it's going to come up okay, because I'm having monitor issues today. So let's see how it goes.
We got it.
Can you still see it?
Yep.
Okay, perfect. So what is SDAO? We were formed in 1979. So we're a nonprofit public corporation. And it was essentially formed back then to help special districts survive. As you know, ports are special districts as well. But at that time, there was a lot of momentum in the legislature by cities, especially to essentially get rid of special districts. And so at that time, the special districts that were all individually at the Capitol lobbying decided that they needed to do something jointly to fight for their own survival. And so it's evolved from there. But on the association side, that's a big piece of what we do. And of course, part of that piece is what we call the Ports Chapter, which is the Oregon Public Ports Association, which you are also members of. It used to be a separate corporation. It had difficulties funding itself and with consistency and with management. And so it was probably, I think, almost 15 years ago now, we put together a chapter of SDAO, and where we're able to reduce costs, spread the overhead costs to the other types of members, et cetera. So it's been pretty successful. I think there's almost a $200,000 retained earnings now that can be used to help with lots of different port projects, legal projects that we've been doing, et cetera. So that's what that's all about. And please interject with any questions as I go through this. I've been told I've got 10 minutes, so I'm going to try to whip through this really fast.
Hey, Frank, who's
yeah.
the president of the OPPA? Is that, oh, yeah, I'm sorry. That was me.
Oh, yeah. Oh, geez.
Last week.
He's a hard guy to remember. So I don't, oh, Sean, yes, that is the president of OPPA, the new president. So, Mr. President, I should have addressed you as that when I started this presentation. Types of districts. So there's around almost 1,000 special districts in the state. Almost all of them are members of SDAO, but that gives you kind of a good sampling there. I think that's wrong. I think it's 23 ports, and the most common being fire districts, almost a quarter of the membership there, but there's essentially 38 different types now of special districts in the state. Gives you a good example, kind of the geographic dispersion of where they're located. A whole lot in the Willamette Valley on the coast, and then gets less as you go to Eastern Oregon. We do a lot of education and training. Hopefully some of you have been able to come to our annual conference. If you haven't in the past, it's a great opportunity, especially for board member topics. That's going to be in February. We also do regional trainings, especially board trainings, risk management trainings every year throughout the state. A lot of employment practices type trainings. We have our newsletter, the SDAO news. Hopefully you get your SDAO news and read it. That comes out every week, and there's lots of great information on there, especially regarding trainings, grant opportunities, etc. Technical assistance. So we have a technical assistance hotline. If Sean or Bob have anything that they want to ask a question about or get advice from us, we have a full-time paralegal on staff that helps members with all kinds of questions on public meetings, records, contracting, anything you can think of. We're kind of a 1-800 call away from those services. Special Districts Advisory Services. So we have an LLC that we created. Dave Albrecht is a municipal advisor who manages that program. We're actually the #1 municipal advisor in the state of Oregon. We do more transactions or help with more transactions than anyone else. Right now, that program's been very successful. We've just, Dave just closed, I think, close to a $300 million deal with the Port of Morrow last week. We not only do special districts, but we also have some county and city and school district projects going on as well. Management consulting. So you're part of Special Districts Insurance Services, and that entitles you to get 8 hours of free management consulting services, where we have a whole cadre of part-time retired special district managers with all kinds of different expertise, and they can come in and help you with strategic planning, management recruitment, board member training and relations, conflict resolutions, a whole gamut of things, and some just fantastic resources there available to that if you want to take advantage of anything that they do. So what's Special Districts Insurance Services? It's actually a separate entity from SDAO. It was formed by SDAO, but it's a self-insured trust formed by intergovernmental agreement. So back in 1985, there was a nationwide insurance crisis. I'm afraid we're building to one of those again, especially I think this hurricane could easily be the most costly event in U.S. history. I'm a little concerned what it could even do to the capacity for reinsurance worldwide. So little scary about what's developing right now. But in 1985, there was a big crisis where nobody wanted to insure governments, local governments, or any governments of any kind because of the civil rights laws that were coming into place and lawsuits, et cetera. So back then, Oregon, as well as most other states in the country, passed laws allowing local governments to essentially pool their money together and self-insure, and then take that money and then buy reinsurance to cover those catastrophic losses. But that's why SDIS was formed in 1985 and continues today. It's everybody pays into the pot. We take that money, we administer the money, and then we pay out the claims. We used to have a self-insured workers' compensation program as well, under the same concept that you participated in for a long time. We had to end that program, unfortunately, 2 years ago because of different presumption laws, specifically for the fire service, which were making it extremely difficult for us to continue to fund that program. So we formed a partnership with SAFE. It's been a great program with that. Now, we provide all the risk management services to our members under contract, and SAFE provides the funding and the claims services. And then another program I don't think you're participating in right now, but it's available to you, is in 2014, we formed a self-insured program for medical and dental coverage. That's been very successful. We went from having no money when we started it, I think 8 years ago, to there's about $20 million in reserves now that we're using then to be able to bring down rates or smooth rates over time. And that's administered through Regents, and MOTA are our partners there. So as far as what SDIS provides, we have liability coverage. That would include your board members being covered for errors and omissions, general liability, slips and falls on your docks, all that, your auto liability, auto physical damage coverage, your property coverage, which we've got some pretty big experience with covering your property over time, unfortunately, as far as dollars go out from the trust. Crime insurance, cyber liability, we provide some pretty basic cyber coverage there. We do encourage you to purchase more than we offer. just because of the huge exposure there is on cyber that we're seeing. The workers' comp, employee benefits, as I mentioned, pre-loss legal assistance. This is a great program we have where we actually require you to seek free legal advice for us when you're making an adverse employment decision, like firing someone. You can call us in advance, or you need to call us in advance and walk through that process. And if you don't, it's a $25,000 deductible. So there's a financial incentive there, but we handle literally thousands of employment claims, probably 300 a year between us and the school district program that we also manage on contract. So we have a lot of experience in employment. So please always give us a call. We do some free drug and alcohol testing, criminal background checks, education and training, et cetera, and some of the things I already mentioned. Just to give you some history there, as I mentioned, some property claims. This was the biggest property claim that the trust has ever experienced and hopefully will ever experience. That was your mill building that collapsed on December 23rd, 2008. It ruined my Christmas. That's for sure. Probably ruined a lot of your Christmases as well, but that was a pretty catastrophic event. Not only the liability side, but I mean, the property side, but it ended up being a liability claim as well, because you had tenants in there. For instance, this was those Pullman Railroad cars were damaged. That tenant sued for the damage caused to their stuff. The same event, there was the boat dock that collapsed. And that's not all. I think there were 5 different there was a port hangar building, I believe, that collapsed or was severely damaged. And some other properties. So that was a huge event that we got through together. And of course, now today we've got this one that we're working on. Really grateful, I guess, for you guys, and also for your own port that you were able to keep that service flowing. I don't know how you did it, but that was great news. But now it's time to rebuild, and it's time to then for us to take on what's called subrogation, which means going after the liability insurance for those that were at fault. And, it's always a mystery to people because they're like, well, what is the deal? Why can't you just get the money? You submit a claim and it's obviously their fault. The tugboat rammed right through the dock. Why won't they pay up? Well, when it's a liability claim, nobody just pays up. So we're going to have to, I'm sure, eventually get to the point of lawsuits, whatever their explanation will be of why it's not their fault, or arguing on damages or amounts. But it's not an easy process, unfortunately. So and I promised I would keep it to really short. So that's what I did, and just open it up with any questions that you've got.
Frank, Robert Kaiser here.
Yes.
So you outlined the services you offer. Do those change with what agent we use to purchase them through?
No, you can
No
pick
matter where we purchase them.
Yeah, you can use any agent that you want, any independent agent that qualifies to work with SDIS. They have to sign an agency agreement, which your agency has done. I think that Chris is probably one of the most longstanding insurance agents we have for the whole program. The trust, he's been around as long as I have, and he's very good. So you're in good hands.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Yeah, regarding the dock, I mean, obviously, since this is a liability situation and like you were saying, this could be something that could be potentially years for payout. Correct? Am I right? Okay.
Yeah. So it's, it's our obligation under the property side to pay it. And then we pay, and then we seek reimbursement. So yeah,
Okay.
But yeah, it will be, unfortunately, years and years, and it shouldn't be that way, but that's just the way it works when it comes to liability claims.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Anything from the excellent agent crowd?
No, he just did a good job. Yeah, good job, Frank.
Okay, thanks, Chris. I didn't know you were there. I shouldn't have said such flattering things.
Thanks for not the bad talk to me. You've been here a long time. I think that just means we're both old.
Yeah, the gray hair is really
Yeah.
showing on the screen here today.
If anyone would like to know what Frank does in his spare time, Elvis Cash on Spotify. He's got music up there, so check him out. Shameless plug for you there, Frank.
Thank you, Sean. Well, check out Sean's stuff too with his band. It's pretty amazing.
All right, thank you, Frank.
Okay, thank you. Thanks for letting me join your meeting.
Okay, next on the agenda, we have resolution 2024-24, Marina parking violation, $50 fine.
Good morning, commissioners.
Good morning.
The Marina Advisory Committee recommended implementing a new parking violation fine for the short-term free parking spaces in front of the Marina's public restrooms. These spaces are intended for brief use by patrons accessing the restrooms or marine park facilities. The Marina Advisory Committee and port staff discussed the proposed fine of $50 as a deterrent effective against misuse of these spaces. The primary goal is to maintain proper use of the short-term parking spaces, not to generate revenue. Signs will be posted at the parking spaces to clearly communicate the fine to the public. So the staff recommends adoption of resolution 2024, adding a parking violation fine of $50 at Scappoose Bay Marine Park, effective January 1st, 2025. Any questions?
Just for clarity, we put a time limit. Was it 20 minutes for the parking? I can't recollect. 20 minutes. Okay.
With the understanding that there is a grace period after it'll be noted as a 20-minute parking space. Yeah.
How will they keep track of that?
The amount of time, our park staff is usually around the park and they do tend to notice if somebody has been there. I mean, they're not going to be standing watching, but they do tend to notice like, hey, that car was there 30 minutes ago,
Yeah.
or it's been there 15 or 20 minutes, and then they might make another round later and notice it's still there. That's when the citation happens.
Are those spaces covered by cameras at all?
They are, there is some camera, not like head on, but there is some camera vision to that. Yeah.
Enough to go back and look and verify.
I will have to see how well, but yes, if there's not a lot of other vehicles there to the left of those spots, yeah.
I was just curious.
Yeah, no, that's good. That's really been helpful, actually. And as I've just shared with you guys before and just discussing with people who have inquiries about why they got cited, just it gives me positive perspective, and then they're usually very agreeable.
Well, you used to say video don't lie, but I'm not sure you can say that anymore, but it's a good tool for us.
Yeah.
I'd like to move to adopt 2024. 24.
All right, we have a motion by Commissioner Sorber and a second by Commissioner Buble to adopt resolution 2024-24. Any further comments or discussion? If not, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you, Elizabeth. Resolution 2024-25 AirSense Avionics lease.
Evening, commissioners.
Morning.
Good morning.
So resolution 2024-25 requests permission for Sean Clark, our executive director, to execute a new lease with AirSense Avionics for a 6,000 square foot hangar and office space at the Scappoose Airport. AirSense is an avionics repair and installation business. I'll let Brian go into more detail. They've been doing business at Scappoose Airport, I understand, since around 2021, when you started subleasing from a former tenant. They've been on a month-to-month license up until now. And so we see this as a really positive step for long-term partnership with the business. I'd like to introduce Brian Yablon. He's the president of AirSense.
Morning.
He's been a proven like an invaluable partner on the airfield. He's very articulate. He's very, very helpful in terms of some of the accidents that we've had. And he's just a really highly safety conscious individual, which we appreciate out at the airfield. So I don't know if you guys have any questions for Brian or.
Yeah, I can give just a 10-second introduction of what we do. We're an FAA, more than 10 seconds.
Just kidding.
We're an FAA Part 145 certificated repair station. We're rated by the FAA to do avionics installations in small aircraft. Avionics is aviation electronics, which is navigation equipment and radios, and other things that pertain to aircraft electrical systems. Our primary clientele are small single-engine aircraft, private aircraft, light twin aircraft, and even some smaller jets that are used for private and business and commercial aviation. We are not certificated to do any kind of transport work, so we can't work on big jets or anything that I think it's more than 19 people or 19 passengers or anything like that. We've got a burgeoning business, 4 full-time technicians that do installation and repair on aircraft. And I'm looking forward to a productive relationship moving forward. Any questions on what we do or?
Your full stack?
Right now, that's what this particular hangar that we're moving to lease can support. We can work on 3 aircraft at any given time inside. And if the weather is nice, we can do a little bit of smaller stuff on the ramp outside the hangar. We are looking to expand and grow, and Amy's been very helpful in putting provisions in the lease to enable us to look to grow as our needs grow as well.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, welcome.
Thank you.
There's no further questions. Entertain a motion.
They make a motion to adopt 2024-25.
Second.
All right, we have a motion by Commissioner Sorber and a second by Commissioner Ward to adopt resolution 2024-25. Any further discussion? Not all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you, Ryan. Sincerely, thank you for your help, post crash, all your efforts out there. We really, really appreciate it.
Thanks. I know it's been an exciting summer. That excitement will abate.
He wasn't gray hair before the summer started.
All right, item E, approval of EPA $4 million grant application. Gina and Elliot.
Oh, this is going to be a tough decision.
Yeah.
Can I just start by saying that I cannot be more grateful to have this team of folks working on these grants for us. And we're just scratching the surface because we're getting help with these federal grants too. But Elliot, Gina, and Lacey and others definitely have been majorly absorbed with this, trying to get this moving. So hopefully we're all in agreement and we make a compelling case for you.
Thank you, Sean, and good morning, commissioners.
Good morning.
As you know, the board has been working with DEQ for many years to study the Pope and Talbot site and determine how best to clean the property. Over the past few years, we have made great strides culminating in DEQ's record of decision, or ROD, issued last year. That document, as you may recall, provides a roadmap for cleaning up the site. And as we are now preparing to enter the next phase, which will involve designing and implementing the cleanup called for in the ROD. Port staff has been talking to Colpack, EPA, and DEQ about funding options that may be available to us, including EPA brownfield cleanup grants. Last September, EPA announced this year's grant cycle, which allocates $100 million to clean up brownfield sites with individual grants available for up to $4 million. Grant applications are due on November 14th. Port has hired 2 consultants, Haley and Aldrich, and geoengineers to assist us in preparing our grant application. Slide. So as I suspect you all recall, the 42-acre Pope and Talbot site has been divided into 5 priority action areas. They are shown on this slide, and starting in the center, you see Upland Area 1, and continuing counterclockwise, you come to Upper Milton Creek, the Cove, and then continuing along the shoreline towards Area 1 dock. And then further up towards the east, there is Area 2 dock. While the cost to clean up all 5 exceeds the maximum allowable grant amount, we can apply for grants separately for each priority action area. But we are limited to 1 application per site per year. For this purpose, the division of the Pope and Talbot site into 5 distinct priority action areas actually works quite well. So working with DEQ and geoengineers, we determined that prioritizing the Area 2 dock made the most sense for several reasons. However, I do want to note that we are waiting for EPA to confirm whether the port can include the in-water areas that the port controls by lease rather than ownership. And what I mean by that is the EPA grant process is specifically for owners of property. So that's why we're sort of in a gray area. Sorry?
Never mind. I was thinking aloud, state laws. Is that
Yeah.
the issue? Yeah.
So EPA told me they would respond yesterday, but I still don't know. So that sentence is highlighted in orange in the hope that I would get to delete it. If that is an issue, we will have to pivot, and the most likely area then would be Upland Area 1 because that sits on land that we own. But the reasons we thought Area 2 dock is the best place to start is that it is separate from the others, and it is unlikely that it would be contaminated by one of the other priority action areas. So in other words, what I was trying to say there is that we don't want to clean a priority action area first, leaving other adjacent ones, and then have those adjacent areas contaminate the one we just cleaned. Second, the cost of remediating this site, Area 2 dock, fits well with the grant size. We asked geoengineers to update their figures because the ones we had were a couple years old. And their current estimate is, and this is a very high level estimate, obviously we'd have to do more detailed engineering, but their estimate is just under $5 million. So another benefit of the Area 2 dock is that it is adjacent to the no further action area, which is shown in this depiction as Upland Area 2. And that benefits the ability to redevelopment the site, which is another criterion that EPA will consider. And I'll get into further details, what we have in mind about that in just a bit. Next slide. So in this slide, you can see the Area 2 dock circled in red, and the grass area above it is the no further action area. And I just wanted to show this picture because it's a little easier to see the site we're talking about versus the prior one. Next slide. So the cleanup of Area 2 dock will entail removing the remaining dock debris, which consists of 700 to 800 piles. In addition, shallow surface sediment will be removed near the shoreline, and the sand cap would be placed over the residual contamination to enhance natural recovery. The estimated cost to clean up Area 2, as I mentioned, is $5 million, which leaves a $1 million shortfall. So DEQ management has preliminarily agreed to commit $500,000 of orphan funds to clean the site. That's preliminary. We expect to have their final approval by October 23rd. So if that happens, we would basically spend $500,000 for $4.5 million in additional cleanup funds. Next slide. So as I mentioned earlier, part of the application criteria will be our redevelopment plans for the site. In this case, the site matches well with the proposed St. Helens Milton Creek Trail and Development Project. That project, identified in the St. Helens Parks and Trails 2015 master plan, would create a trail system linking McCormick Park with St. Helens waterfront. You can see McCormick in the center there, and the proposed trail system is in lime green. And they follows Milton Creek down to the channel and then follows the shoreline towards downtown. And you can see by the water treatment, it then loops around, creating about a 2.6 mile loop trail. And in fact, some of you may recall the St. Helens Parks and Trails Commission attended a commission meeting last April to discuss this very project. So it is possible that the route shown here may need to be changed a bit because of currently it's going along Milton Creek through several of the other priority action areas. So I would expect, at least initially, the trail would be reorientated to the east, maybe along the property line, but closer to the no further action area versus Milton Creek. The original footprint could be restored after the priority action areas have all been cleaned though. So community engagement is another criterion which will be graded. The agenda package includes a brownfield cleanup outreach plan that Gina has drafted. The dates in that plan have not been finalized, but we intend to present a high-level overview of the project at a City of St. Helens Park and Trail Commission meeting, and then we would hold an open house here at the port. So our purpose here today is to ensure that the commission supports the grant application, including the trail system in our redevelopment plan. And that's what I had. So thank you for listening. Gina's here to help me answer any questions that you may have.
Well, this seems like an excellent fit to me. I'm curious.
I think it's great, certainly. I mean, the grant system, I mean, that's excellent news. The trail system is, I know Jerry Belcher and John Walsh were very excited. I think that's probably going to follow up. It won't be immediate, I'm assuming. We're talking couple of years down the road. But no, I think it's great.
I should point out, Parks and Trails is under the city, so they're an advisory board similar to ours, so they make their, the recommendations to the city as well. So it's not approved by the city yet. We don't expect it wouldn't be, but it still has to go. The Parks and Trails folks have to agree to it too, so.
We had hoped to attend a St. Helens City Council meeting to present this, but they're within the dates between now and the application is canceled, so we won't have that opportunity.
Oh, that's too bad.
Seems like the kind of cooperation the DEQ lady was getting at.
Right.
They've been very integral in this process. We've been working very well with them.
Yeah. And you'll let us know as soon as you get confirmation from them.
On October 23rd, yes.
Right.
I know it'd be passed down. Do you still plan on attending a city council meeting and presenting for just the community?
I suppose we could do so, but it would be after the grant.
Sure, yeah, no, yes, right.
November meeting after we've already submitted the application, but yeah, we could still talk to them. But we are on the agenda for the Park and Trail Commission meeting on the 14th.
That does seem like it'd be good to
Yeah.
go to the council meeting.
Yeah, I would attend just to hear comment on it. I'm be a lot more maintenance for Parks and Rec, certainly with my thoughts, but we'll see. I mean, it should be great though. I mean, that will be a big deal for everybody to use that, especially with the waterfront development, so.
Yeah, the fit with this, just I'm coming back to that, seems perfect to be able to clean up that one spot. Independent of the rest, get funding for it and in conjunction. Yeah. No further action piece, we might actually be able to.
I know there was light talk of it, but we could talk about it later, obviously, but provided we move forward with this trail and working with the city for that, were they going to allow access through their Boise property? Okay. Yeah.
Yes, we met, Amy and I met with John Walsh and his public works person on Monday and outlined exactly what we wanted to do. And she's been communicating with Mohammed, the public works director. He's, tell us what you need. We got IGA is going to be going back and forth here soon. They're going to grade the gravel driveway for us for access, temporary access for what we're working on the Bailey Bridge and spread the gravel for us and put some more gravel down in the area to access from other sites. Cool. Great.
If there's no further questions or discussion, are we looking at a vote for this? I know it's not a resolution, but we have approval. The head nod or?
Yeah, just a consensus.
Have approval in the minutes, I think that, yeah.
Yeah, or if you guys want to.
Sure, I would move that we staff to take all efforts to apply for the $4 million EPA grant.
I'd second.
All right, it's been moved by Commissioner Kaiser and seconded by Commissioner Sorber. Any further discussion? Not? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah.
And you'll make sure Mike Avent knows about it.
Yes. Okay, executive director report.
Okay. Good morning once again. I placed some items from the end of last month on there because I just wanted to touch on them a little bit. It was a pretty busy couple of weeks there for a bit. Starting on 9/24 with the Greater Portland Economic Summit. I was in Portland for a few days and then went to Hood River for a couple of days. But while in Portland for the Oregon Infrastructure Summit, I was able to talk to folks from DEQ and EPA and folks that we've been working with on different things. And I just was always amazed at how many touch points there are with some of these things. That some of the sessions were really good. We, went through some exercises on, would you develop this site, and they kind of give you some parameters and you break into groups and you voted, whether or not to proceed. But I really like what that infrastructure summit's doing and bringing those people together. And it was a very valuable time for me to be down there. Then the next couple of days, Bob and I were in Hood River for Oregon Public Ports Association annual meeting. First day, part of it was a tour of the Dalles Dam, which was fascinating. Driven by that for years, and actually to be inside the powerhouse and look what appears to be a half a mile from one end to the other. It's pretty impressive with all that technology. Some of it's old, that's been in there since they put the dam in and then they added more. It's just amazing what those dams do. And, of course, with our affiliation with the river and the need for the navigational aspects of it, we're tuned into the Columbia River Treaty and the potential removal of the lower Snake River dams. There's a lot going on behind the scenes to try to keep that stuff intact, to keep that reliable power source that's there all the time for us. So that was a really nice, just the fact that I was named president was just a sidebar. It's just a position, that we hold for about a year, maybe two. There'll be the opportunity to go down to Salem and advocate not just for us, our issues, but our, other 22 port district issues. And we all have a lot of shared ones, but we all also have our own individual needs. So that'll be a nice learning experience getting down there with Mark Landauer, who's the executive director for OPPA under the Oregon chapter, like Frank had talked about, of SDAO. Mark Landauer is our lobbyist / executive director for that group, does a really good job. We worked with him on, Bob had crafted some antitrust language for a law that got signed in, and he's actually in the ORS today.
777.133.
RLS.
Well, congratulations to both of you. Yeah, that's awesome.
And then I also wanted to give a shout out to Sarah Liu with Colpack. She's the interim Colpack director. We talked before about Colin Cooper had left. Sarah Liu had already been there, and as in the interim role, I do believe hopefully that she's going to apply for the permanent position because she's doing really, really good stuff there, bringing folks together. She's really jazzed about trying to facilitate EDA money that comes into her our district here and help the ports get it. So she had facilitated a call with EPA and our grant team, and she's just really doing really good stuff. And hopefully she puts in for it, like I said. And then last week was that Pacific Northwest Waterways Association annual meeting with Commissioner Ward in Vancouver. Always just an amazing amount of material that they're able to present. It's hard to take notes, and luckily the presentations are available. I will be sending out a couple of presentations to you folks because I think they're really interesting. And one of them in particular was by a gentleman named Eric Dunn from Benton County PUD. He was just talking about the dire nature of power and where things are headed and how much requests there are for potential projects versus what's available. Hopefully I can find his presentation on YouTube because I think it'd be really a good view for us to understand kind of the gravity of the power situation. Attended the John Gum building ribbon cutting with Amy and Brian last week. That was exciting. They're trying to name that building. And I won't prejudice a decision on that, but they have some good options. It's just beautiful. And I attended part of first grade there before we moved to Global back in 75. And I could not get my bearings to where my class was because, obviously it was a lot of years ago, but anyway, it just looks great in there. They probably changed the floor plan, who knows? And no one had moved in yet, but it's ready. It looks like it's ready for them to go. So excited for them. There's also meeting space there that we could take advantage of as we're limited, with our current meeting space here. Manufacturing Day last Friday at PCC OMIC. Ton of kids, just amazing thing that they do out there. Natalie and oh boy, just blanked on what's her name? Patty, thank you. Patty and Natalie do really good stuff out at PCC. Well attended. I wanted to see here anything else I want to update you on here. You see my staff, my executive director report. If you have any questions on the report, please let me know. And then also attached, you have the manager reports as well. Entertain any questions you have on items. Any questions for Sean? Ooh, sorry, real quick. I didn't put it on here. My fault. August 22nd is the city county dinner. So far I have, thank you. October, yeah. Brian and Nancy, and we don't have to worry about a quorum there. We just don't talk business while we're there. So anybody else want to go? I'd already responded that we'd have 2 commissioners and 2 staff. So as long as we have 4 total, we should be fine. So let me know. It's Scappoose Senior Center this year or this month. So let me know if you'd like to go. And
I'm out of the country.
all right. Okay.
All right. Thank you, Sean.
Thank you very much.
Commissioner reports. Well, I don't remember where I started last time, so start with Nancy.
Okay, I'll follow up on the conference in Vancouver. Pacific Northwest Waterways just blows me away every year with the quality of people that they have available to us. And the presentations are so informative. And there were 2 in particular that stood out, besides the person from Benton, who I have never seen anyone more passionate than this guy. He was just, it was like he was on fire, and it was great.
He has caffeine.
Yes, yes, yes.
They in their own dam.
Yeah, and he has some very, very strong opinions about where energy needs to go. And he, of course, he has the expertise to back it up. So it was a fabulous presentation, and I'm glad you're going to be sending that around because I think it's well worthwhile. The other 2 that really grabbed my attention was NOAA Fisheries, woman by the name of Jennifer Kwan. She talked a lot about salmon. And one of the things, a couple of things that stood out. One was that in the 70s, she said there were 3,000 salmon fishing boats. There are now 79. That's how impacted the salmon are on our rivers. The other thing is NOAA is now investing for the very first time in hatcheries, which seems like, wow, yeah, good move. The other person that I was very impressed with was a woman whose name I can't pronounce, so I won't try, but she is from the Columbia River Intertribal Fish Commission, and they represent 4 tribes. This organization was formed in 1997 because they had been denied their fishing rights. And they now are very active in advocacy for native fishing and fisheries. She was asked the question where they stand on the removal of dams, and she said the 4 tribes are not in alignment. 3 of the tribes are not in favor of removing the dams. One of the tribes is. I would really like to see us pursue some kind of a public informative get together where people can hear the views from both NOAA and the tribes about where they stand on salmon in particular. I think we're all really, I don't know, I shouldn't say all. I am very concerned about, yes, the salmon, and I'm also very concerned about, yes, the power. Where do we come down on these things? And I think that having people who are experts in these areas to give us a viewpoint would be something that we could all benefit from. And I think the port is the right organization to offer that information to the public. So something for us to consider about moving forward in that area. That's my report.
Answer.
Other than reading my packet, not much.
What's that?
Other than reading my packet and skimming barely the 80 pages of Lee's on avionics. But
Really excited for this EPA grant. That is awesome. Great job to staff. That is a huge deal. I mean, if that thing can get put to bed, or the start of the beginning of the end after 20 some odd, I don't even know how many years, that is a huge deal. That is a great job. Can't say enough about it. So thank you guys for all your work there.
The only thing we worked on a little bit, I think in our next meeting, we should hear from some of the folks at the airport about the discussion about utilities and internet service to the east side. Opportunity there. They wanted to make sure we had some facts straight, find out before they came. And also the discussion of possibly transferring the middle school building. We're gonna work through the budget process, so we have not given up, and I think this spring before our budget year is over, we'll have that worked out with the board. It's still agreeable.
Just to clarify, talk about the Clasco Fire District.
Yeah.
Transfer.
Middle school.
I don't have much to add other than to say I came across an interesting piece of information to kind of dovetails with what you were talking about. There are more fish returning to the Columbia River this year than in 1938 when Bonneville Dam was put in. I found that to be interesting. Not quite shocked as a fisherman. I know those have gone up and down, but you know, some of the narratives out there don't necessarily match up with data all the time. And I agree, it would be great to kind of host a forum to learn more about this issue. It's really important. And educating the public, I think, would be helpful so that there's a better understanding of all the impacts.
Yes.
With that, I think we have an executive session with a couple of different topics. I'll let Bob read the script. We do not expect any action afterwards, right?
That is correct. Board of Columbia County will now meet in executive session pursuant to ORS 1926602E to deliberate with persons designated to negotiate real property transactions and to act, consider, exempt from any written legal advice from Port General Counsel. Representatives of news media and designated staff are allowed to attend. Representatives of the news media are specifically directed not to report on any of the discussions or deliberations that occur during this or any executive session. Board Commission will return to open session after the executive session, and we will not have any decisions to be announced. Any persons excluded from executive session are welcome to return to open session when it is resumed. Thank you.
All right, 5-minute break. 5 minutes. All right.
Gosh, I meant to share